The small, trendy cafe on Fifth Avenue had never seen anything quite like it. The clinking of coffee cups and low hum of conversation filled the space as people huddled over their laptops, sipping on their lattes. But the peaceful atmosphere was shattered the moment the door swung open and a man, tall and unassuming in appearance, stepped inside. His crisp white shirt and dark jeans stood in stark contrast to the vibrant atmosphere of the cafe. His face was partially obscured by a dark baseball cap, but the hat, it was unmistakable. A bold MAGA slogan emblazoned across it. The barista, Emma, caught sight of the hat immediately. She was no stranger to the political atmosphere surrounding the MAGA movement, and she had her own opinions. To her, the hat symbolized a divisive force in the country, a reminder of everything she opposed. So when the man walked up to the counter, she didn't hesitate. "Can I take your order?" Emma asked, her voice slightly colder than usual. The man smiled, a polite but neutral expression on his face. "I'll have a black coffee, please." She hesitated for a moment, her fingers hovering over the register. "Sorry, I'm not serving customers wearing that hat." A tense silence filled the air. The small cafe suddenly felt a lot smaller, the weight of her decision hanging heavily in the space. People around her paused their conversations, glancing over at the interaction. They could tell something was off. The man didn't react immediately. He just stood there, his gaze fixed on Emma. His lips parted as if about to speak, but then he simply nodded. "I understand," he said quietly. "I'll take my business elsewhere." But before he could turn to leave, a voice from behind the counter stopped him. "Wait," Emma called out, her voice cracking with sudden uncertainty. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," but the man had already walked out, the door shutting behind him with a soft whoosh. Emma stood there, feeling a pang of regret. She turned to her co-worker, who was watching the interaction from a distance. "What just happened?" her co-worker, Sarah, asked, her eyebrows raised in surprise. Emma shook her head. "I don't know. I just felt like I had to stand my ground." Later that day, a news article popped up on Emma's phone, and her stomach dropped. Jeff Bezos spotted in New York cafe wearing MAGA hat. The man she had just turned away was none other than the founder of Amazon himself. Weeks turned into months, and the resistance to the platform only intensified. The media campaigns against the project became more aggressive, with false information being spread about its potential dangers. Emma and the team worked day and night to combat the negative press, but it seemed like for every step they took forward, they were pushed 2 steps back. Despite the mounting pressure, there was a shift. The people, the very individuals the platform was designed to empower, began to speak out. Small, grassroots movements started popping up across the country, rallying behind the idea of a platform that could truly give them a voice. They shared stories of how they were tired of being silenced by corporate interests and government censorship. They saw the platform as a chance to finally have their say. Emma could feel the tide turning. The battle was far from over, but there was hope now. Hope that this wasn't just a fight for a platform, but for something bigger. The freedom to speak, to connect, and to change the world. But the powers that be weren't going to give up so easily. One morning, as Emma sat in her office, reviewing the latest progress on the platform, her phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something in her gut told her to pick it up. "Hello," she answered. "Emma, it's Jeff," Bezos said, his voice tight with concern. "We've just received word that the government is planning to take legal action against us. They're going after our funding and trying to block our operations." Emma's heart sank. This wasn't just about a few bad press stories anymore. This was real. The government was coming after them with everything they had. They were at risk of losing everything. "What's the next move?" Emma asked, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. "We fight back," Bezos said firmly. "We can't back down now. This is bigger than us. We got the people on our side, and we need to make sure they know we're not going anywhere." Emma felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about the platform anymore. This was about standing up for the people who had believed in them. They had to keep going. They couldn't let fear or threats stop them. "I'm in," Emma said without hesitation. "Let's do whatever it takes." The legal battle that followed was intense. High-profile lawyers were brought in, and the courtroom became the latest battleground for the future of the platform. The government's argument was that the platform's ability to spread information without regulation was a threat to national security. They accused Emma, Bezos, and the entire team of creating a tool that could potentially incite violence and destabilize governments. The courtroom was filled with tense moments as both sides presented their cases. Emma and Bezos were the central figures in the trial, but they knew they couldn't do this alone. They had a whole team of legal experts and public relations specialists working behind the scenes to help them navigate the storm. The case dragged on for weeks, with public opinion shifting as the media coverage grew more heated. But through it all, Emma held firm in her belief that they were doing the right thing. She continued to speak out in interviews, explaining the mission behind the platform and its potential to make the world a better place. Slowly, something unexpected began to happen. More and more people started rallying behind them. Protests erupted across the country in support of the platform. People held signs that read, "Give us our voice," and "We deserve to be heard." It was clear that the opposition had underestimated the people they were trying to silence. In one particularly emotional moment during the trial, a group of ordinary citizens appeared in court as witnesses. They spoke about how the platform had already changed their lives, how it had helped them connect with others who shared their struggles, their passions, and their dreams. It was a powerful reminder that this wasn't just about technology. It was about human connection. The government's case started to lose steam. The more the people spoke, the more the courtroom shifted. Public opinion swung in favor of the platform, and even the judge, a stoic figure throughout the proceedings, seemed to soften. Finally, after months of legal battles and public unrest, the day of the verdict arrived. Emma and Bezos sat together in the courtroom, their hearts heavy with anticipation. The air was thick with tension as the judge entered the room, and the crowd fell silent. "This court," the judge began, his voice deep and authoritative, "has carefully considered the arguments presented by both sides. After much deliberation, it is the judgment of this court that the platform may continue its operations, subject to certain regulatory conditions." The room erupted in applause. Emma, unable to contain her emotions, wiped away a tear as she exchanged a glance with Bezos. They had done it. They had won. But the fight wasn't over. The government still had a plan to impose strict regulations on the platform. But now, they had the legitimacy they needed to continue their work without the constant threat of shutdown hanging over their heads. With the legal battle behind them, Emma and Bezos were free to focus on what truly mattered: the platform itself. The team worked tirelessly to refine the platform's features, adding new tools for collaboration, transparency, and accountability. They ensured that the platform would be a place where people could not only connect but also learn, grow, and innovate. The world watched as the platform went live. What followed was nothing short of revolutionary. People from all walks of life began to use it to share their stories, ideas, and visions for a better future. It wasn't just a social media platform. It was a movement, one that had the power to change the way the world worked. Emma watched as the platform grew, knowing that they had accomplished something truly special. It wasn't just about technology. It was about the people who had used it to come together, to make their voices heard, and to create a future that was brighter for everyone. And as she looked out over the city once more, she realized that this was only the beginning. They had started a revolution, and the world would never be the same again. The story spread like wildfire. Social media was ablaze with mixed reactions, some defending Emma's decision, others furious at her audacity to turn away one of the world's richest men. The hashtag boycott Emma trended within hours, while hashtag justice for Emma became a rallying cry for her supporters. Emma's phone buzzed relentlessly as messages from friends, customers, and strangers flooded in. Her heart raced as she skimmed through the comments, trying to find the truth amid the chaos. Some praised her for standing up for her beliefs. They admired her courage in refusing to serve someone who, in their eyes, represented everything that was wrong with the political landscape. They saw it as a moral stand, an act of defiance against a man who had been associated with policies they disagreed with. But others were furious. How dare you turn away a customer, especially someone like Jeff Bezos? You don't know who he is? Are you insane? The venom in the messages was sharp. Emma's hands trembled as she read through them. wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. As the day wore on, the cafe became ground zero for controversy. Some customers came in, eager to voice their support for Emma. "You did the right thing," one man said, nodding approvingly as he took a seat. "I would have done the same." Others, though, came to express their anger. "You ruined a good cafe's reputation," a woman shouted as she stormed out. "I'll never come here again." Even Sarah, who had initially been on Emma's side, was starting to doubt her decision. "Emma, maybe you should have just served him. You could have kept your personal feelings to yourself and just done your job," she suggested quietly, nervously glancing over her shoulder. Emma didn't know what to say. She had always prided herself on her values, but now she found herself questioning whether those values were worth the backlash. She hadn't meant for things to escalate like this. And then the most unexpected call came. It was late in the afternoon when Emma's phone rang again, vibrating with an urgency that made her stomach twist. She glanced at the screen, and her breath caught. The caller ID read, "Jeff Bezos, personal line." Her mind raced. Should she answer? Was it a prank? A publicist? There was no way the man himself was calling her, right? But she knew deep down, if it was him, this could change everything. With a deep breath, she pressed the answer button. "Hello." Emma's voice came out shaky, unsure of what to expect. "Emma," the voice on the other end was calm but authoritative. "This is Jeff Bezos. I need to speak with you." Her pulse quickened. "Mr. Bezos," she stammered, unsure how to respond. "You've caused quite a stir today, haven't you?" he continued, his tone neutral. "But what you did, refusing to serve me, it's not just a statement, it's a statement to the world. I've been watching you, Emma." Emma's mind reeled. "I didn't mean for it to be a statement. I know," he interrupted, a slight chuckle in his voice. "But the thing is, people like you don't come around often. People with a backbone who stand by what they believe in, no matter the cost. I respect that." Emma's confusion deepened. "You respect me for turning you away?" "Let's just say," he said, his voice taking on a more serious tone, "I believe in second chances. And I think you're someone who deserves an opportunity to do something bigger, more impactful. How would you like to change the world, Emma?" Her heart raced. This was no ordinary conversation. She had no idea where this was headed, but she had a feeling her life was about to take a dramatic turn. Emma sat in stunned silence for a moment, absorbing Jeff Bezos' words. "Change the world," she repeated, as if testing the reality of what was happening. I'm just a barista. I can barely pay my rent." There was a soft laugh from the other end of the line. "That's the beauty of it, Emma. You don't have to be a billionaire or a CEO to change the world. Sometimes it's the people who least expect it who make the biggest impact." She didn't know what to say to that. Her mind felt clouded, and her hands shook as she clutched the phone tighter. Bezos continued, "I'm not asking for some big company pitch or a massive business venture. I'm offering you something more. A chance to stand on a platform that could put your beliefs in front of millions, maybe even billions. But the choice is yours." "What kind of platform?" Emma asked cautiously. She had no idea what this man, who had transformed entire industries, was offering her. "You'll find out soon enough," Bezos said cryptically. "But first, I need you to come to Seattle. I'll have a plane ready to take you to my headquarters tomorrow. You'll meet with me and some of the top minds in the industry. This is a one-in-a-lifetime chance. Don't waste it." Emma's heart was pounding in her chest. Seattle? Meet Jeff Bezos? The idea seemed so far-fetched it almost felt like a dream. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to say anything right now," he replied smoothly. "But think about it carefully. A chance to be a voice for something larger. To be heard. You've got fire, Emma. I think the world needs that." The phone call ended abruptly. There was no time for goodbyes, no room for doubt. It was as though Bezos knew exactly how to leave her with the right amount of curiosity and anticipation. Emma stared at her phone, her mind racing. This was a surreal moment, one she'd replay in her mind 1,000 times over. But what did it mean? What was she really being asked to do? Her fingers hovered over the screen, wondering if she should Google the next flight to Seattle. But she didn't need to. She knew this was bigger than just a plane ticket. This was a turning point, a fork in the road where everything she knew, her life, her job, Her identity could shift in the blink of an it was time to decide. The next day, Emma boarded the private jet bound for Seattle, her mind still spinning from the previous night's conversation. She had barely packed, throwing a few essentials into a bag without giving it much thought. What was the point in overthinking? Jeff Bezos had personally invited her to meet him, and there was no turning back now that the jet soared above the clouds. Emma stared out the window, her thoughts swirling. She had no idea what she was walking into. A chance to change the world? Was this some kind of marketing stunt? Or had Bezos genuinely seen something in her? She wasn't sure, but she knew this wasn't the kind of opportunity that came every day. The cabin was luxurious, far beyond anything Emma had ever experienced. Soft leather seats, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a personal flight attendant who seemed to anticipate every need before she even asked. It felt surreal, like she was stepping into a new world, a world she'd never imagined would be hers. When the plane touched down in Seattle, Emma was greeted by a sleek black car. The driver, a tall man in a sharp suit, opened the door for her with a quiet nod. "Welcome to Seattle, Ms. Harper," he said, his tone professional, yet kind. "Mr. Bezos is expecting you." Her heart skipped a beat. She had known that Jeff Bezos had an impressive empire, but she had never imagined it would feel so vast. Everything around her screamed power, innovation, and success. The car made its way to Bezos' headquarters. Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The buildings around her were cutting-edge, futuristic even. Tall glass structures, sleek and gleaming in the afternoon sun, seemed to rise from the earth like monuments to the future. It was nothing like the sleepy little cafe she worked at. Within 20 minutes, they arrived at a massive building that looked like it had been designed by architects from another world. The entrance was grand, wide, steel doors flanked by polished stone. A receptionist at the front desk led Emma through a series of corridors, each one more impressive than the last. It felt like a maze, but every turn only added to her growing sense of disbelief. "Mr. Bezos will be in his office," the receptionist said with a smile. "Please, make yourself comfortable while I let him know you've arrived." Emma nodded absently, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach. She had no idea what to expect, but deep down, she knew she wasn't just here to meet a billionaire. She was here for something more. But what? She still didn't have the full picture. After what felt like an eternity, a door opened at the far end of the room, and a voice called out, "Emma, come in." She turned toward the sound of the voice, her heart racing. Standing in the doorway was none other than Jeff Bezos himself. Dressed in a simple, yet elegant black shirt and tailored pants, he looked every bit the billionaire mogul. But there was something disarming about his smile, something that made him seem human. "Emma, welcome," he said with a warmth that caught her off guard. "I'm glad you could make it." She offered a nervous smile. "I'm still not sure how I ended up here," she admitted. "But thank you for having me." Bezos chuckled softly and motioned for her to take a seat. "You're exactly where you're supposed to be," he said, as if his words held some deep truth. "I believe you're ready to see what the future holds." Emma took a deep breath and settled into the chair across from him. The room around her was filled with modern art, sleek furniture, and a giant glass wall that looked out over the city. It was a view that made her feel small in the grand scheme of things, but also hopeful. "So, what is it you want from me?" Emma asked, not able to hold back any longer. Bezos leaned forward, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if weighing his words carefully. "I want you to help us change the narrative around what it means to be a leader in today's world." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Change the narrative? How?" He smiled. "I've built an empire, but the world is changing. We need new voices, new ideas, people like you. People who understand what it means to have a real connection to the world. People who can inspire others to think differently, act boldly, and challenge the status quo. You've got that potential, Emma." The words hit her like a tidal wave, crashing over her in waves of confusion and exhilaration. Could she really be the one to lead this charge? Was she ready to stand alongside some of the greatest minds of the age? Bezos continued, "I want you to join our team. Help us create something that will challenge the very fabric of society. A platform, a movement, and it starts with you." Emma's mind raced as Bezos' words hung in the air. A platform? A movement? She had spent years building a career from the ground up, working hard to make a difference in her own small way. But this was something entirely different, something that could change the world. "Are you saying you want me to be part of Amazon?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, still trying to process what he was offering. Bezos shook his head, his expression softening. "No, not Amazon. Something bigger than that. Something beyond any single company. We want to create a new kind of organization, one that doesn't just focus on profit or technology, but on how we, as a society, interact with those things. It's about building a future where everyone has a voice, no matter their background, no matter their resources. We want to democratize access to ideas and empower people to innovate, to disrupt, to create positive change." Emma blinked, struggling to keep up. "So, you're talking about a social movement?" Bezos smiled, leaning back in his chair. "Exactly. A movement that brings together the brightest minds, the most passionate individuals from all walks of life. We need leaders who aren't afraid to challenge the norms, to push the boundaries. And I believe you can be one of those leaders." For a moment, Emma was speechless. The weight of his words felt immense, like the fate of the world rested on her shoulders. She had been offered opportunities before, good opportunities, but nothing like this. Nothing that could change the very way society functioned. Could she really step into a role like this? "Why me?" she asked, her voice almost cracking. "Why do you think I have what it takes to lead something this big?" Bezos leaned forward, his eyes intense, but there was a kind of quiet confidence in them that Emma found strangely comforting. "You've built something from the ground up. You've worked with people from all walks of life, and you've seen the struggles they face. You understand what it means to be overlooked, to be underestimated. And more importantly, you understand the power of human connection. That's exactly what this movement needs. Someone who can bridge gaps, connect people, and build something that's not just about technology or profits, but about real, tangible change." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She had never thought of herself as a leader, let alone someone who could start a movement. But there was something in Bezos' eyes, something that made her believe, just for a second, that maybe she could do this. Maybe she could be the person to help lead a revolution. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, feeling overwhelmed. "You don't have to say anything right now," Bezos replied with a soft chuckle. "Take your time, but think about it. The world needs more than just big ideas. It needs people who can take those ideas and turn them into something real, something lasting. And I believe you have that ability." The room fell into a heavy silence as Emma's mind churned. She felt torn. This was the kind of opportunity most people only dreamed of, but it also came with enormous responsibility. Was she ready for that? Was she ready to step into a role that could shape the future of an entire generation? "I'll need some time to think," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of thoughts racing through her mind. Bezos nodded. "Of course, take all the time you need. But remember, the world won't wait forever. Opportunities like this don't come around twice." Emma stood up, her legs feeling a little unsteady beneath her. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Bezos. I'll let you know my decisions soon." With that, she turned and walked out of the room, her heart pounding in her chest. As she stepped back into the hallway, she was greeted by the receptionist again, who handed her a small black envelope. "Mr. Bezos asked me to give this to you," the receptionist said with a smile. Emma took the envelope, a sense of curiosity bubbling up inside her. She had no idea what could be inside, but she was about to find out. She opened the envelope carefully, pulling out a single piece of paper. On it was a simple message: "The future is yours to create. But it starts now." Beneath the message, there was an address and a time that it was clear. If she accepted this, her life would never be the same. The days following her meeting with Bezos were a blur. Emma had spent hours talking to her closest friends and mentors, asking for advice, trying to figure out what to do. Some told her to seize the opportunity, that this was the kind of chance that didn't come around twice. Others were more cautious, warning her of the potential risks. But one thing was clear: this wasn't just any decision. It was a turning point, one that would define the rest of her life. The address in the envelope led her to a small, nondescript building in the heart of Seattle. It was nothing like the sleek, polished headquarters of Bezos' empire. The building looked old, with a worn brick exterior and faded windows. But there was something about it that felt right. When she stepped inside, she was greeted by a quiet hum of activity. There were people moving about, working on computers, sketching on whiteboards, and having deep discussions. But it wasn't just about the work. They were passionate. You could feel it in the air that a woman walked up to her with a warm smile. "Am I right? Jeff's been expecting you." "I didn't expect anything this informal," Emma admitted, her eyes scanning the space. The woman laughed softly. "This is where the magic happens. We've built a team here that believes in changing the world, and we're just getting started." Emma followed the woman down a hallway to a small conference room where Jeff Bezos was already waiting for her. He stood up as she entered, his expression expectant. "Are you ready to change the world?" he asked. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She had been unsure, uncertain, but now, standing here in this room, she knew. "I am," she said, her voice steady. "Let's make history." And just like that, Emma's journey to change the world began. Emma's first day in the new project felt surreal. She had walked into the building with a heart full of uncertainty and walked out hours later with a sense of purpose she had never known before. Bezos had introduced her to a team of diverse and brilliant individuals, engineers, social activists, artists, and even former political leaders, all working toward the same goal: to build a platform that would connect people across industries, races, and backgrounds, and create something that could fundamentally change society. But before she could start working on the specifics of the project, Bezos made one thing clear. This isn't about technology. It's about people. Technology is just a tool. The real power lies in how we connect. Emma had always believed in the power of people. She had spent her career working with underserved communities, advocating for the voiceless, and using her platform to raise awareness about social issues. But this was something different. This was a chance to unite millions of voices across the globe. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Emma spent hours in brainstorming sessions, meeting with the team, and discussing what the platform could look like. There were moments of excitement, but also frustration. The magnitude of the task at hand was daunting. It was one thing to build a platform that connected people. It was another to create something that could truly change the world. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Emma stood by the large windows overlooking the city. The lights of Seattle twinkled below, but her mind was far from the city skyline. It was on the task at hand. How could they build something that would empower people on a global scale? "Are you all right?" a voice asked from behind her. It was Megan, one of the engineers Emma had met earlier. She had a warm, grounded presence that made her an instant favorite among the team. Emma turned around, offering a tired smile. "I'm just trying to wrap my head around it all. It feels like a massive responsibility." Megan nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "It is a massive responsibility, but think about the impact we could have. We're talking about something that could give people the power to not only connect, but to innovate and create solutions to problems that have seemed insurmountable for years." Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of Megan's words sink in. "I know. I just don't want to mess it up." "You won't," Megan said confidently. "None of us will. We're doing this together. We've got a whole team of people who believe in this vision. It's not about one person. It's about all of us. And we're all here for the same reason: to make a difference." Emma smiled, the knot in her chest loosening slightly. Megan was right. She didn't have to do it alone. They were all in this together. She had the support of a team, the belief of a visionary leader in Bezos, and the opportunity to create something truly revolutionary. The following weeks were a blur of activity. The team worked tirelessly, designing the platform's interface, refining its algorithms, and mapping out how it would function. It wasn't just a social media platform. It was a platform for change, a place where people could share ideas, collaborate, and solve real-world problems. But there were challenges. There were moments of doubt and frustration, particularly when things didn't go as planned. Some team members were concerned about the potential for misuse of the platform. Others questioned the feasibility of such an ambitious project. Emma found herself in countless discussions, trying to keep the team focused on the mission. She drew on her years of experience working with diverse communities, using her ability to empathize and understand the concerns of others to keep the team unified. One afternoon, as she was walking through the building, she received a call from Bezos. Emma, his voice was calm, but there was a hint of urgency in it. "I need you to come to my office. We've hit a major roadblock, and I need you to help us figure it out." Emma's heart skipped a beat. A roadblock? She had anticipated some challenges, but she hadn't expected anything like this. She made her way to his office, where Bezos was waiting for her. "What's going on?" she asked, sitting down across from him. "We've just received a lot of backlash," Bezos said, his voice steady. "There are a lot of people who don't think this platform should exist. They're concerned about the power it will give individuals. They're scared it could disrupt the status quo." Emma raised an eyebrow. "What kind of backlash?" "Mainly from government officials and corporations. They're worried that this platform will give too much power to the people, and they're trying to shut us down before we even get started." Emma let out a slow breath. This was the reality she had feared. She had known that they would face opposition, but hearing it so clearly laid out was a sobering moment. She leaned forward, her eyes meeting Bezos. "What's our next move?" "We need to fight back," Bezos said firmly, "but not with force. We need to show them that this platform is about giving people a voice, not taking away their power. It's about transparency, accountability, and connection. We need to make sure that the world understands the value we're bringing." Emma nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. This was exactly why they were doing this, to give the people a voice. They couldn't let fear stop them. They had come too far to let it all slip away. "We're not backing down," Emma said with conviction. "We're going to show the world that this is what they need. We're going to build something that can't be ignored." Bezos smiled, his eyes glinting with pride. "I knew you were the right person for this." The next few weeks were a battle, both on the ground and in the media. The platform, still in its developmental stages, was facing fierce resistance. Critics accused Bezos and Emma's team of trying to undermine democratic systems, while others warned that the platform would lead to anarchy. The media coverage was intense, and it felt like the entire world was watching them. Emma found herself speaking at press conferences, defending the platform and its mission. She faced tough questions from reporters, many of whom didn't understand the vision behind the project. But she stood her ground, explaining the purpose of the platform with the same conviction that had first drawn Bezos to her. Despite the negative attention, the team remained undeterred. They continued to work tirelessly, tweaking the platform's design and functionality, making sure it would be able to handle the immense volume of users it would soon attract. They had a vision, and they weren't going to let anyone take it away. Then, one day, they received an unexpected visitor, a government official. One who had been particularly vocal in his opposition to the platform arrived at the office. His name was Senator John Morris, and he was known for his conservative views on technology and social media. Emma had heard of him, but she hadn't anticipated meeting him in person. "I'm here to make a deal," Morris said, his tone cold and direct. "You need to shut down this platform. Now, before it's too late." Emma didn't flinch. "And why would we do that?" "Because it's a threat to national security," he said bluntly. "This platform gives people too much power. It could be used to spread misinformation, incite violence, and disrupt the social order. It's dangerous." Emma leaned forward, meeting his gaze with unwavering resolve. "This platform is about giving people a voice. It's about empowering them, not controlling them. It's about transparency, accountability, and building trust. You're just scared of what you can't control." Morris' eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you're up against." Emma didn't back down. "We're not backing down either. We're going to make this work, and we'll prove you wrong." The tension in the room was palpable, but it was clear the fight was just beginning.